The moment Holden pulled me into the guest room and pressed his lips against mine, I knew my life as I knew it was over. My sister's fiancé had just kissed me, and in that split second, everything I thought I knew about myself shattered like glass under a boot. I stood frozen, the taste of his cologne and the faint hint of bourbon still lingering as he stepped back, eyes wide with the same panic I felt. Downstairs, the rest of the family laughed over Emily's birthday cake in our sunny Sacramento home, completely unaware that the man she planned to marry in 6 months had just crossed a line either of us could uncross. Holden ran a hand through his dark hair, the same hand that had shaken mine politely at every family barbecue for the past year. "Leo," he whispered, voice cracking. "I'm sorry. I didn't plan this. God, I didn't plan any of this." My heart hammered so loud I was sure Emily would hear it from the kitchen. I was 28, worked as a graphic designer downtown, dated a couple of girls in college, and never once questioned who I was. Until now. Until Holden, 32, successful architect, the golden boy fiancé everyone adored, looked at me like I was the only real thing in his carefully built life. We had met when Emily brought him home for Thanksgiving. He helped Dad carve the turkey, joked with Mom about her terrible pumpkin pie, and tossed a football with me in the backyard like we'd known each other forever. I liked him immediately. He was easy, grounded, the kind of guy who remembered little details like how I hated olives on pizza. But tonight, after one too many glasses of wine and a quiet moment while Emily showed off her new ring to our cousins, he had followed me upstairs to grab more ice. The hallway light caught his face, and suddenly words spilled out that had nothing to do with ice. "I can't stop thinking about you," he had said, voice low. Then the kiss. Now we stood 3 feet apart, breathing like we'd run a marathon. "We have to go back down," I managed. My voice sounded foreign. "Emily's waiting." Holden nodded, but his eyes stayed on mine a second too long. That second felt like a promise and a threat all at once. We slipped downstairs separately, pasted on smiles, and I spent the rest of the evening avoiding his gaze while Emily chattered about wedding venues. Every laugh from her felt like a knife. By the time guests left and I collapsed onto my childhood bed, my mind was a storm. I had always been the reliable younger brother, the one who stayed close to home after college, the one who helped Mom when Dad had his heart scare last year. Emily was the star. Lawyer, beautiful, engaged to the perfect man. And now that perfect man had kissed me. Me. A guy. Sleep never came. I stared at the ceiling fan spinning lazy circles and replayed the moment until my lips burned with memory. 3 in the morning my phone buzzed. Unknown number, but I knew. "Holden, we need to talk. Alone. Tomorrow." I typed back 3 different replies and deleted them all. Finally, I sent one word. "Okay." Morning light poured through the blinds like nothing had changed. But everything had. I met Holden at a coffee shop downtown far from our neighborhood. He was already there, 2 black coffees on the table, wearing a gray hoodie that made him look younger, more vulnerable. "I'm not gay," I blurted before he could speak. He smiled sadly. "Neither was I. Until you." We talked for hours. He told me about growing up in a strict Midwest family, how he learned early that success meant checking every box. Good grades, good job, pretty fiancé. Emily fit perfectly on paper. She made his parents proud. She made him feel safe. But safe wasn't the same as alive. "I've fought this for months," he said, eyes on his untouched coffee. "Every time I saw you at family dinners, something in me woke up. Last night I just broke. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to tell him to stay away from my sister and never speak to me again. Instead, I asked the question that scared me most. What do we do now?" Holden reached across the table but stopped short of touching my hand. "I don't know. But I can't pretend anymore. Not with you. Not with myself." By the time I drove home, my chest felt cracked open. Emily texted asking if I wanted to help pick flowers for the centerpieces. I stared at the message until the screen went black. For the first time in my life, I didn't know how to answer my own sister. That night, I sat on the back porch with a beer, watching fireflies blink in the yard. Holden's truck pulled up quietly. He didn't get out, just sat there in the dark, headlights off, waiting. I walked over, heart in my throat. "We can't do this," I said through the open window. "I know," he answered, but neither of us moved. The air between us crackled. One more second and I would have climbed into that truck. Instead I turned and walked back inside. Locking the door like that could lock out the truth. Upstairs, Emily's wedding dress catalog lay open on the coffee table. I closed it slowly. Tomorrow was another day. Another chance to fix what hadn't even started. But deep down I already understood. Some doors, once opened, never close again. The next 2 weeks became a masterclass in avoidance. I took extra shifts at the design firm, volunteered to help Dad repaint the garage, even agreed to a blind date my coworker set up with a girl named Rachel who laughed too loud and talked about her yoga retreat. Anything to keep from being alone with my thoughts or with Holden. Emily noticed something was off. "You've been weird since my birthday," she said one evening while we folded laundry. "Is it work? Or that girl Rachel? She seemed nice." I forced a laugh. "Just tired. Wedding planning stress is contagious, you know?" She hugged me, smelling like the same vanilla shampoo she'd used since high school. "You're the best brother. I don't know what I'd do without you." Guilt tasted like metal in my mouth. Holden and I texted. Short, careful messages at first. "How's your day?" "Busy. Thinking about you." That last one came at 2 a.m. and I stared at it until sunrise. I never replied, but I didn't delete it either. Then came the family barbecue. Dad insisted on his famous ribs. Emily dragged Holden over early to help set up tables. I was in charge of the cooler. When I carried the ice out back, Holden was alone by the grill, flipping burgers like it was the most normal Saturday in the world. Our eyes met across the yard. The noise of kids playing and Mom's music faded. He gave the tiniest nod toward the shed at the back of the property. I knew I should ignore it. Instead, I set the cooler down and followed. Inside the dim shed that smelled of cut grass and motor oil, he closed the door softly. "I tried to stay away," he said. "Me too." We didn't kiss this time. We just stood there, inches apart, breathing the same air. He told me about the ring he bought Emily, how he'd felt nothing when he picked it up. How every time he pictured their future he saw my face instead. I told him about the dreams I'd been having, confusing and vivid, waking up flushed and ashamed. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Me too. But Leo, for the first time, I'm not scared of being myself. I'm scared of losing you before I even get to know you." A lawnmower started next door and we jumped apart. When we stepped back into the sunlight, Emily waved from the deck. "Burgers ready?" she called, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. That night, after everyone left, I drove to the river trail where we used to fish as kids. Holden's truck was already there. We walked in silence until the path opened to the water. Stars reflected on the slow current. "I can't marry her," he said quietly. The words landed like stones in still water. "You have to," I answered. "She loves you. My parents love you. Everyone does. Not the way I need to be loved." He turned to me. "And I think you feel it too." I did. God help me, I did. When he finally took my hand, it felt like coming home after years away. We didn't kiss. We just held on, two men standing on the edge of a decision that would burn everything behind us. The drive home was quiet. I dropped him at his apartment downtown. Before he closed the door, he said, "Whatever happens next, I'm not sorry about the kiss. I'm only sorry it took me so long to be honest." I drove around the city until dawn, windows down, radio off. When I finally crawled into bed, my phone lit up with a message from Emily. "Can't wait for you to be my best man. Love you, little brother." I turned the phone face down and cried for the first time since I was 12. Summer heat settled over Sacramento like a blanket. Emily's wedding countdown app blinked 142 days on her phone screen. I threw myself into work, designing logos for tech startups that paid well and asked no questions. Holden texted less, but every message carried weight. Coffee after work? Walk by the river tonight? I said yes more often than I should have. We met in public places first, coffee shops, parks, the farmer's market where we could pretend we were just future brothers-in-law grabbing produce. But the conversations grew deeper. He told me about the summer he spent in Chicago after college, the guy he met at a bar who made him question everything before fear sent him running back to the safe path. I told him about the night in high school when my best friend came out and I hugged him and said, "Cool," while inside I wondered why my heart raced when we changed for gym class. One humid Thursday we drove to the coast, windows down, classic rock playing low. We found a quiet stretch of beach near Bodega Bay and walked until the only sounds were waves and seagulls. Holden stopped, took off his shoes, and dug his toes into the sand. "I called off the wedding," he said. I froze. "What?" "Not officially. Not yet. But I told Emily I needed time. She thinks it's cold feet." She cried, "Leo." And I felt like the worst person alive. Guilt crashed over me. "You can't do this because of me." "It's not because of you. It's because of me. Because for the first time I'm choosing truth over comfort." He looked at me, eyes bright with unshed tears. "But I need to know if you're choosing it too." I wanted to say yes. Instead I said, "I don't know who I am anymore." He nodded like he understood. Then he did something that surprised us both. He hugged me. Not the quick bro hug from family parties. A real one. Arms tight, chin on my shoulder, heartbeat against heartbeat. I closed my eyes and let myself feel it. Safe. Terrified. Alive. On the drive back we barely spoke. When I dropped him off he lingered at the truck window. "Take all the time you need. But Leo, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." That weekend Emily came over with takeout and wedding magazines. She looked tired but determined. "Holden's just stressed at work," she said, flipping pages. "We'll get through it. You'll see. You're going to be the coolest uncle someday." I smiled until my face hurt. Later, alone in my room, I opened my laptop and searched, "How to know if you're gay." I closed it after 2 minutes. The answers were already inside me. Monday I texted Holden, "Meet me at the river trail. 8 p.m. He was there early. The moon was almost full. We sat on the same log where we'd held hands weeks before. "I'm scared of losing my family," I said. "I'm scared of losing myself if I stay silent." We talked until the moon moved across the sky. When he kissed me this time, it was slow, deliberate, full of every unsaid word between us. Kissed him back. And in that moment I stopped fighting the truth. The walk back to our cars felt lighter. But as I drove home past Emily's apartment building, her lights still on, the weight returned. 2 men falling in love shouldn't feel like treason. Yet here we were, traitors to the life everyone expected. Fall arrived with shorter days and longer silences. Emily started therapy for pre-wedding anxiety. Mom asked me daily if I thought Holden seemed distant. Dad just patted my shoulder and said, "Boys will be boys." I smiled through it all while my secret burned brighter every day. Holden and I stole moments like thieves. A lunch break in his car parked behind the old mill. A late-night walk through the university campus where no one knew us. Each touch, each conversation stripped away another layer of fear. He told me about the apartment he'd quietly looked at downtown, 2 bedrooms, big windows close to my office. "Just in case," he said. I didn't answer, but I started imagining mornings with him. Then came the misunderstanding that nearly broke us. Emily found a receipt in Holden's jacket for 2 coffees at the same shop on a day he told her he was working late. She called me crying. "He's hiding something, Leo. I can feel it. You're his friend now. Has he said anything?" I froze on the phone. "Maybe he just needed space." She sniffed. "I'm going to ask him straight out tonight." I texted Holden immediately. "She knows something's wrong. Be careful." His reply came fast. "I can't lie anymore. I'm telling her tonight." Panic clawed up my throat. I drove to his apartment without thinking. He opened the door looking exhausted but calm. "I have to do this," he said. "For all of us." We argued. I begged him to wait. He said waiting was killing him. In the heat of it, I said words I instantly regretted. "If you tell her, we're done. I won't destroy my sister." His face went white. "So you'd rather I marry her and hate myself? Hate us?" I left without answering. For 3 days we didn't speak. Emily called sounding lighter. We talked. He admitted he's been stressed but promised it's nothing serious. We're good again. Relief and shame mixed in my stomach like bad whiskey. On the 4th night, my doorbell rang at midnight. Holden stood on the porch, rain soaking his jacket. "I didn't tell her," he said. "But I can't keep doing this either." I pulled him inside. We stood dripping in the hallway, foreheads touching. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I was scared." He kissed me like a man drowning. When we broke apart, he said, "I love you, Leo. Not as a secret. Not as a mistake. I love you." I said it back for the first time. The words tasted like freedom. But freedom always has a price. Christmas lights twinkled along the streets, but our house felt colder than ever. Emily announced they'd set a new date, Valentine's Day. "A fresh start," she beamed. Holden smiled beside her at dinner, but his foot found mine under the table and pressed once. Our secret code for "I'm here." The pressure built like a storm. Holden's parents flew in from Illinois for the holidays and kept asking when they'd hear wedding bells. My mom started knitting baby blankets, just in case. Every conversation felt like a landmine. I started pulling away again. Canceled 2 meetups. Holden showed up at my office after work one Friday, waiting by my car. "You're running," he said quietly. "I'm protecting everyone. You're protecting no one. Least of all yourself." We drove to the beach again, this time in winter wind that whipped our coats. We sat in the truck watching gray waves crash. "I called off the wedding for real this morning," he said. "Emily deserves the truth. So do you. So do I." Tears stung my eyes. "She's going to hate me. Maybe. But she'll survive. We all will." That night he stayed over for the first time. We didn't do anything more than hold each other on the couch watching old movies. But it felt bigger than any grand gesture. Felt like choosing us. Emily found out 2 days later when Holden sat her down at their favorite cafe. She called me screaming. "How long? How long have you been lying to me?" I tried to explain, but she hung up. The next week was hell. Family group chat exploded. Mom cried on the phone. Dad asked if I was sure about this lifestyle. Emily sent a single text. "I trusted you both." Holden moved into the downtown apartment alone. I visited every evening after work. We cooked simple dinners, talked for hours, and slowly built something real. But the guilt never left. One night, I found Emily's engagement ring in my mailbox with a note. "Give this to your new love." I sat on the porch and cried until Holden found me. He held me without words until the shaking stopped. "Love isn't supposed to destroy people," I said. "Sometimes it has to break things to make room for truth," he answered. Spring brought new leaves and new beginnings. Emily moved to San Francisco for a fresh start at a new firm. We hadn't spoken in months, but she sent a short email. "I'm angry, but I'm healing. Maybe someday we can talk." It was enough for now. Holden and I went public slowly. First with close friends, then coworkers. Mom eventually invited us for dinner, awkward but kind. Dad shook Holden's hand and said, "Treat my son right." Small steps, but they mattered. We took a weekend trip to the same beach where everything changed. This time the sun was warm, the sky endless blue. We walked hand in hand along the water. No hiding, no fear. Holden stopped, turned to me, and dropped to one knee in the sand. "Not a big wedding," he said, pulling out a simple silver band. "Just us, and anyone who wants to celebrate real love." "Leonardo, will you marry me?" I laughed through happy tears. "Yes, We kissed right there on the beach, open, honest, free. The kind of kiss that didn't need darkness or secrecy. 6 months later, we stood in a small backyard ceremony with string lights and our closest people. Emily came. She hugged me tight and whispered, "I'm proud of you for choosing you." Then she hugged Holden and said, "Take care of my brother." Life wasn't perfect. There were still awkward holidays and old friends who drifted away. But every morning I woke up next to the man I loved. I knew we had fought for something worth everything. Looking back, that single kiss in the guest room wasn't the end of my old life. It was the beginning of the real one. True or false? True love always justifies breaking family ties without regret.